The last thing I told my daughter was a lie. It was the morning of her 6th birthday, and the rain pounded our small porch like it knew what was coming. I stood there, my old leather jacket soaked through, gripping her tiny hand as she clutched her yellow rabbit, its ears frayed from years of love. Her wide, trusting eyes searched mine, waiting for me to say it would all be okay. But I couldn't shake the shadow I'd seen beyond the door last night. A shadow that whispered of a choice I wasn't ready to make. A choice that would tear us apart. My name is Clara, and this is the story of the day I gave my life to save hers. It's not a fairy tale. It's a confession, raw and jagged, of a mother's love so fierce it carved out my soul. The pain lingers, sharp as the cold that seeped into my bones that day. But there's something else too. A stubborn spark of hope I cling to, even now. Every step I took led to a moment I can't escape, a moment that haunts me in the quiet of the night. What would you do if saving the one you love meant losing them forever? I need you to hear this, to feel the weight of it with me. If this story stirs something in you, please like, comment, tell me what you'd do in my place. Subscribe to walk this painful, hopeful path with me. Let's face it together. My voice cracked like cheap glass as I lied to my daughter, swearing her birthday candles would wait. Rain lashed our sagging porch, each drop a cold, sharp jab, like the world was trying to tell me something I was too stubborn to hear. I stood there in my worn leather jacket, the one I'd had since I was a teenager, running from my own ghosts, gripping Ellie's tiny hand. Her yellow rabbit, soggy and pathetic, pressed against her chest, its frayed ears flopping like they knew we were doomed. Her hazel eyes, big as coins, stared up at me, full of trust I didn't deserve. Last night's shadow, tall, jagged, pressed against our door's cracked glass, still clawed at my brain, whispering of a choice that would gut me, a choice that would shatter us into pieces too small to glue back together. I woke that morning gasping, the rain's relentless drumming matching the thud in my chest. My old scars, jagged lines from a life I'd tried to bury, itched under my skin, screaming dread I couldn't name. I'd lain there, staring at the ceiling's water stains, telling myself it was just a bad dream. But it wasn't. It never was. Ellie twirled into the kitchen, her braid swinging like a metronome, her voice high and bright as she sang about her 6th birthday, about the cake we'd never eat. Her joy was a knife, twisting in my gut, because I knew what was coming, even if I couldn't say it out loud. Headlights flickered through the window, too early for neighbors, too deliberate for chance. They cut through the dawn, sharp and quick, then vanished, leaving my pulse hammering. I stood frozen, coffee mug burning my hand, watching the empty street like it might confess. It didn't. Nothing ever did. I packed Ellie's backpack, my fingers fumbling over zippers, shoving in her rabbit with a smile that felt like a lie even before I spoke it. An adventure, I called it, my voice tight, like I was choking on the word. She giggled, oblivious, her small fingers tracing the rabbit's worn fur, and I hated myself for how easy it was to fool her. On the porch, the rain soaked us both, my jacket heavy, Ellie's hair plastered to her face. I knelt, meeting her eyes, and choked out, "We'll be back soon, sweetheart." The words were ash in my mouth, splintering my heart as they fell. She nodded, trusting me, her hand warm in mine, and I wanted to scream, to tell her I was sorry, that I didn't know how to save us. But I didn't. I just stood, pulling her close, the air thick and heavy, like it was holding its breath, like it knew I was already losing her. Every step toward the car felt like a betrayal, the rain a chorus of accusations. I buckled Ellie in, her rabbit clutched tight, and glanced back at the house. The shadow wasn't there now, but I felt it, lurking just out of sight, waiting to swallow us whole. I slid into the driver's seat, my hands shaking, the lie I'd told her burning in my throat. The world was closing in, and I was running out of places to hide. The shadow wasn't some trick of my tired eyes. It was real, tall and jagged, pressed against the door's glass at 3 a.m., a silhouette that made my blood freeze. I'd stood in the hallway, barefoot, the wood cold under my feet, listening to a silence that screamed. For weeks I'd felt it. Something stalking us, its claws brushing the edges of my life. I'd ignored it, told myself I could outsmart it, keep Ellie safe with sheer will. But the truth was a splinter under my skin. I was wrong, and it was catching up. It started with a call, weeks back, a voice low and garbled, growling my name before the line went dead. I'd stood in my kitchen, phone shaking in my hand, telling myself it was a prank. But it wasn't. Then Ellie's teacher, Mrs. Carver, pulled me aside after pickup, her face pale, voice hushed. A man in a hood had asked about Ellie, lingering by the school gate, his eyes hidden. She'd shooed him off, but the way she looked at me said she knew I was in trouble. I nodded, muttered thanks, and drove home, my stomach a knot of thorns. Then the note, tucked under my windshield wiper like a bad omen. She's not yours to keep. I read it in the parking lot, rain smearing the ink, my heart slamming so hard I thought it'd crack my ribs. I crumpled it, shoved it in my pocket, and told myself it was nothing, just some creep's sick joke. But it wasn't nothing. It was a warning, and I was too stubborn to heed it. I called my sister Lena, my voice raw, begging her to take Ellie for a while. "You made your bed," she snapped, her old grudge a wall between us, and hung up, leaving me alone with my fear. That night, I sat by Ellie's bed, her rabbit tucked under her chin, her breaths soft and even. She looked so small, so breakable, her braid loose across the pillow. My heart clawed at my ribs, a trapped animal begging to run. I wanted to scoop her up, drive until the world forgot us, but where could we go? The shadow was everywhere, behind the curtains, in the creak of the floor, in the way the streetlights flickered. I'd known for weeks something was coming, but I'd buried it, like I'd buried so much else. My husband's secrets, my own mistakes. They were all catching up, and Ellie was the price. I whispered promises to her sleeping form, lies about safety, about tomorrow. The shadow was growing, swallowing the edges of my world, and I was running out of ways to pretend it wasn't there. I touched her cheek, soft as a peach, and my fingers trembled. I'd ignored the signs, the call, the man, the note, because facing them meant admitting I couldn't protect her. But now, with the rain pounding and the shadow waiting, I knew I'd been a fool. The world wasn't kind to fools, and it wasn't kind to mothers who thought they could outrun their past. I stood, my bare feet cold, and swore I'd fight, even if it broke me. The highway was a gray, ugly scar under the sky, stretching into nowhere. Ellie hummed in the back seat, her rabbit pressed to her face, her voice a thin thread holding me together. My hands shook on the wheel, slick with sweat, every mile a knife twisting deeper into my chest. I didn't know where we were going, just that staying meant losing her, and I'd rather die than let that happen. The rain kept falling, blurring the world, like it wanted to erase us. I pulled into a gas station, the kind with flickering lights and gum-stained pavement. My eyes darted to every car, every face, searching for the shadow I couldn't unsee. A trucker glanced my way, his stare too long, and my stomach churned. I pumped gas, my breath shallow, the nozzle cold in my hand. Ellie's voice broke through, small and confused. "Where's my party, Mama?" Her hazel eyes caught mine in the rear view, and I wanted to scream, to tell her I was sorry for stealing her 6th birthday. Instead, I forced a smile, said we'd have cake soon, the lie bitter as bile. Then I saw it, the black sedan from dawn, idling across the street, its windows dark as secrets. My heart slammed, a trapped bird, and I fumbled the gas cap, my hands useless. The driver was a blur, but I felt their eyes, heavy, waiting. I slid back into the car, my voice sharp as I told Ellie to buckle up. She obeyed, her humming gone, her rabbit clutched tighter. I veered onto a dirt road, rain smearing the windshield, my breath ragged, the sedan's shadow lingering in my mind. The road twisted through pines, mud sucking at the tires, and I gripped the wheel like it could save me. Ellie fell asleep, her head lolling, her braid tangled. I whispered apologies, tears burning my eyes, knowing she'd never hear them. Every mile felt like a betrayal, pulling her from her bed, her friends, her cake with pink frosting. But staying wasn't an option, not with the note, the man at school, the headlights that knew my name. I'd thought I could outrun it, but the world was closing in and I was dragging Ellie into the dark with me. I glanced at her in the mirror, her small form curled against the seat, and my chest ached. What kind of mother rips her kid from everything safe? What kind of mother lies about birthday candles while running from a shadow? The rain pounded harder, like it was punishing me, and I let it. I deserved it. The road ahead was endless, a tunnel with no light, and I didn't know if I was saving her or damning us both. All I knew was I couldn't stop. What would you do to save someone, even if it meant shattering their world? I ask because I'm living it, and it's tearing me apart. If this story cuts you too, hit that like button, drop a comment. Tell me what you'd sacrifice. Subscribe to walk this road with me, to feel the weight of every step. Let's keep running together. The diner's neon buzzed like a dying fly, its air thick with grease and bad decisions. Ellie scribbled on a placemat, her crayons a riot of color against the gray day, her braid loose from our rush. I sat across, my eyes glued to the door, every jingle of the bell a jolt to my nerves. Then she appeared, Mara, sliding into our booth like a snake, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Clara," she said, her voice syrupy with menace, "we need to talk about Ellie." Mara leaned back, her nails tapping the table, claiming she knew my husband Jack from a life I'd tried to forget. Her eyes, cold and gray, pinned me like a bug. She pushed a photo across, her fingers deliberate. Ellie on a swing at the park, her laugh frozen, taken yesterday. My breath caught, a jagged thing, as I stared at my daughter's face, unaware of the lens stealing her. "Someone wants her," Mara said, her voice low, "and they'll take her, with or without you." The words landed like a fist, bruising my already cracked heart. I grabbed Ellie's hand, her crayon skittering, and yanked her toward the door. Mara's laugh followed, sharp as shattered glass, slicing through the diner's hum. "You can't run forever, Clara," she called, and I hated how she said my name, like she owned it. Ellie stumbled, her rabbit dangling, her eyes wide with questions I couldn't answer. Outside, the rain had slowed, but the air was heavy, pressing down like it knew we were trapped. I buckled Ellie into the car, my hands shaking, and realized my wallet was gone, left on the table or stolen by Mara's quick fingers. I drove, the diner's lights fading in the rear view, but Mara's face clung to me, her smile a splinter in my mind. Ellie asked, "Who was that lady, Mama?" Her voice small, and I mumbled something about an old friend, the lie sour on my tongue. My head pounded, replaying Mara's words, the photo, the way she'd looked at Ellie like she was prey. Jack's past was a noose, tightening around us, and I'd been fool enough to think we'd slipped it. I glanced at Ellie, her rabbit pressed to her cheek, and my chest ached with a love so fierce it hurt. The highway blurred, my eyes burning, Mara's threat looping in my head. Who wanted Ellie? Why now? I'd buried Jack's secrets, his debts, his deals, but they were clawing free, and my daughter was the price. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, and swore I'd protect her, even if it meant tearing myself apart. But Mara's laugh, that photo, her cold eyes, they were a promise I couldn't ignore. Someone was coming, and they knew exactly where to find us. I need you to feel this, the terror of a stranger knowing your child's face. If this story grips you, please like, comment. Tell me how you'd keep running. Subscribe to stay with me, to face the shadows chasing us. Let's hold this fear together. My father's cabin sagged in the woods like a drunk, its boards groaning under the weight of old sins. I carried Ellie inside, her body warm against my chest, her braid damp from the rain that chased us. The air reeked of mildew and regret, a tomb for memories I'd tried to bury. It was our only refuge, a crumbling shield against the shadow that wouldn't quit. But even here, the world felt too small, too close, like it was waiting to swallow us. I jammed a chair under the doorknob, my hands slick with sweat, my heart a trapped animal. The cabin's walls creaked, mocking my attempt at safety. Ellie woke, her hazel eyes heavy, her voice raw as she whispered, "Where's my cake, Mama?" Her words cut deeper than the cold, her 6th birthday stolen by my fear. I knelt, stroking her hair, and lied again, saying we'd bake one soon, my voice cracking like thin ice. She clutched her rabbit, its yellow fur matted, and I hated myself for dragging her into this. An old radio sat on a shelf, its dials dusty. I twisted them, static hissing, until a newscaster's voice broke through, sharp and cold. Clara and Ellie Hayes, missing, possibly endangered. My name, her name, out there for the world to hear. I froze, the room tilting, my breath shallow. Ellie looked up, confused, and I turned the radio off, my fingers trembling. Outside, headlights sliced through the trees, brief but deliberate, then vanished. My stomach lurched, the shadow closer than ever. I pulled Ellie to me, her small frame trembling, and promised, "I'll keep you safe." The words felt hollow, my voice breaking under their weight. I wanted to believe them, but the cabin's walls were thin, the door flimsy, and the shadow knew where we were. I saw it in my mind, Mara's smile, the note, the headlights circling like wolves. Every creak of the floor, every drip of rain was a countdown. I held Ellie tighter, her rabbit pressed between us, and tried to memorize her warmth, her breath, her trust. This wasn't a hideout. It was a trap, and I'd walked us into it. My father's ghost lingered here, in the sagging beams, the empty bottles, the life I'd fled. I'd thought I could outrun Jack's mistakes, my own, but they were here, in the air, in the dark. Ellie's eyes searched mine, and I saw her fear, her confusion, and it gutted me. What kind of mother brings her child to a place like this? What kind of mother can't promise tomorrow? If you had one last chance to hold someone, what would you never let go? I'm asking because I'm living that moment, and it's breaking me. If this story tears at you, please like, comment. Tell me what you'd hold on to. Subscribe to stay in this cabin with me, to face the shadows closing in. Let's cling to this together. The cabin's silence was a fist, squeezing tighter than the rain ever did. Ellie slept on a dusty couch, her rabbit tucked under her chin, her braid a dark rope across the cushion. I sat against the wall, knees drawn up, the floor cold as my guilt. The truth I'd buried, Jack's sins, my silence, clawed its way up, sharp as broken glass, cutting me open. This wasn't some random nightmare. It was my fault, and it was here to collect. Jack had been a charmer, all smiles and promises, but he played with fire, debts to men who didn't forget. He'd come home late, eyes wild, reeking of whiskey, muttering about deals gone bad. Once in the dark, he'd whispered about the broker, a name that sank into me like a blade. "He collects what's owed," Jack said, his voice shaky. "No matter the cost." I'd laughed it off, called it his paranoia, but the fear in his eyes wasn't a lie. After he died, car crash, or so they said, I thought we were free. I was wrong. I found his letter months later, stuffed in a shoebox with old photos and unpaid bills. "Protect Ellie," it read, "or they'll take her." His handwriting was messy, desperate, like he knew his time was up. I'd burned the letter, told myself it was nonsense, but it haunted me. Every creak of the house, every strange noise. Now, the shadow, the note, Mara, they were Jack's debts, alive and hungry, coming for my daughter. I pressed my hands to my face, tears hot, hating him for dragging us into his mess, hating myself for not running sooner. Ellie stirred, murmuring in her sleep, and my chest ached. She was 6, too young for this, too pure for the ugliness I'd let fester. I'd buried Jack's secrets, thinking I could outrun them. But they were here, in this cabin, in the air I breathed. Mara's smile, the photo, the headlights. They weren't random. They were a trap set long ago, and I'd walked Ellie right into it. My scars itched, reminders of a life I'd tried to escape, and I wondered if I'd ever been free at all. I stood, my legs shaky, and checked the door, the chair still wedged tight. The radio's static lingered in my mind, our names echoing like a wanted poster. I wanted to wake Ellie, to run again, but where? The world was a net, tightening around us. I knelt by her. "I need you to see this, the weight of a past that won't stay buried. If this story hurts you, please like, comment. Tell me how you'd face your ghosts. Subscribe to stand with me, to fight the shadows of my mistakes. Let's face them together." 3 knocks split the night, each one a nail in my chest. Ellie stirred on the couch, murmuring, her rabbit slipping to the floor, but she didn't wake. I grabbed a rusty kitchen knife, its blade dull but heavy, and crept to the door, my breath shallow, my heart a wild thing. The rain had stopped, but the air hummed with menace, thick as the dark outside. The cabin wasn't a refuge anymore. It was a cage, and something was circling. I peeked through a crack in the curtains, my eyes straining against the black. Nothing moved, but I felt it. The shadow, waiting, watching. Then Mara's voice slithered through the door, low and cold. "Give me Ellie, Clara." My stomach lurched, the knife trembling in my hand. She stood out there, her silhouette barely visible, her words a blade to my throat. "The broker wants her," she said, "but he'll spare you both if you hand her over." Her voice was calm, like she was offering a deal on coffee, not my daughter's life. I pressed my back to the wall, the knife's edge biting my palm. "Get away!" I screamed, my voice raw, splitting the silence. Ellie whimpered, curling tighter, and I hated myself for waking her fear. Mara laughed, a sound like breaking bones, and said, "You can't hide forever." Headlights flared, circling the cabin, slow and predatory, their beams slicing through the cracks in the boards. My pulse pounded, my vision blurring, the world shrinking to this moment, this choice. I wanted to run, to scoop Ellie up and crash through the woods, but my legs were lead, my mind a tangle of panic. Mara's words echoed, "Give her Ellie, and we'd live." It was a lie, I knew it, but it burrowed into me, a poison I couldn't shake. I'd seen her eyes in the diner, empty as graves, and I knew she'd take Ellie whether I agreed or not. The knife felt useless, a child's toy against the shadow that had followed us here. I slid to the floor, my breath ragged, Ellie's soft snores a lifeline I clung to. The headlights stopped, their glare steady, pinning us like prey. I crawled to Ellie, brushing her braid, her face peaceful despite the terror outside. I'd do anything to keep her safe, lie, fight, bleed, but what if anything wasn't enough? Mara's voice, the headlights, the broker, they were Jack's sins, my failures, and Ellie was caught in the middle. I gripped the knife tighter, my knuckles white, ready to burn the world to ash if it meant saving her. But the truth was a splinter in my heart. I might not win this fight. I need you to hear this, the dread of a choice no mother should face. If this story claws at you, please like, comment. Tell me how you'd fight. Subscribe to stand with me, to face the shadows at my door. Let's hold this fear together. Dawn broke, cold and cruel, painting the cabin in shades of despair. Ellie sat on the couch, her hazel eyes too wide, too old for her 6 years, asking, "Why are we scared, Mama?" Her rabbit dangled from her hand, its yellow fur matted, and I wanted to tell her everything, Jack's debts, the shadow, Mara. But the truth was a knife I couldn't wield. Mara's offer echoed in my skull. "Give me Ellie, and you both live." I hated myself for even considering it, for letting it fester like a wound. I found an old phone in a drawer, its screen cracked, battery flickering. I called Sam, my childhood friend, the only name I trusted. "I'm coming," he said, but his voice was shaky, like he knew more than he let on. I hung up, my hands trembling, and sat by Ellie, her small body warm against mine. I wrote her a letter, my pen scratching through tears, confessing my love, my failures, everything I'd never say out loud. If I didn't make it, she'd know why I fought. Mara tapped the window, her face pressed to the glass, her smile a twisted thing that made my skin crawl. I told Ellie to stay put, her eyes wide, and promised I'd be back. She nodded, clutching her rabbit, and I hated how easily she believed me. Mara was waiting at dusk, she'd said, and I agreed to meet her, every word a shard in my throat. I stepped outside, the air thick with pine and fear, my heart screaming against the choice I was making. I wasn't giving Ellie up, not really, but I had to play Mara's game, buy time, find a way out. The cabin's walls seemed to watch, judging me as I left my daughter behind. Sam arrived, his face pale, his eyes dodging mine. "I'll keep her safe," he said, but his hands shook and I wondered what he wasn't telling me. I handed him the letter, my voice breaking. "For Ellie, if I don't come back." He nodded, his jaw tight, and I saw something flicker in his eyes, guilt, maybe, or fear. I wanted to ask, to shake him until he spilled, but there was no time. Mara was waiting, and the clock was ticking. I hugged Ellie, her braid soft against my cheek, and whispered, "I love you." My voice a raw, desperate thing. Every step toward the clearing felt like a betrayal, the woods closing in, the air heavy with what I was about to do. Mara's offer was a trap, I knew it. But what choice did I have? Run again? Hide forever? Ellie deserved a life, not this nightmare I'd dragged her into. My scars itched, my heart pounded, and I wondered if I was walking to my death. All I knew was I'd fight for her, even if it meant losing everything. I need you to feel this, the weight of a choice that breaks you. If this story hurts, please like, comment, tell me what you'd choose. Subscribe to walk this path with me to face the impossible together. Let's carry this pain as one. Dusk fell like a guillotine, sharp and final, the woods swallowing the last light. I left Ellie with Sam, his face pale, his promise to protect her. A thin thread I clung to. I walked to the clearing, the air thick with pine and fear, my heart a wild drum. Mara waited, a gun in her hand, its barrel glinting under the moon. "Smart choice," she said, her voice smooth, her eyes dead. I knew I'd never walk away, but I'd come anyway. For Ellie. Mara leaned against a tree, her smile a blade, and said, "The broker wanted Ellie to pay Jack's debt, a child for his sins. He's owed a life," she said, her words cold as the gun. I dropped to my knees, dirt biting my skin, and begged, "Take me instead." My voice cracked, raw and desperate, but she laughed, a sound like breaking ice. "She's already his," she said, and my world tilted, my breath a jagged thing. Ellie, my Ellie, caught in a trap I'd built with my silence. I stood, my legs shaky, my eyes locked on the gun. I saw her finger tighten, saw the future where Ellie was gone, and something in me snapped. I lunged, my hands slick with sweat, grabbing for the gun. Mara was fast, but I was desperate, my nails clawing her wrist. The world slowed, the air heavy, and then the shot exploded, a scream of fire tearing through my side. Pain seared, hot and blinding, and I fell, the ground hard, the stars spinning above me. Ellie's laugh echoed in my mind, her braid, her rabbit, her trust. I clawed at the dirt, my breath wet, refusing to let go. Mara loomed, her face a blur, her voice distant. "You should have stayed out of it." I wanted to scream, to fight, but my body was heavy, sinking into the earth. Blood soaked my shirt, warm and sticky, and I thought of Ellie, asleep in the cabin, safe for now. I'd given everything, my lies, my fear, my life, to keep her from this. Was it enough? The world faded, but I held onto her face, her voice, the way she'd sung that morning. Sam would hide her, I told myself, his shaky promise better than nothing. Mara's footsteps crunched away, and I was alone, the pain a living thing, clawing at me. I'd fought, and I'd lost. But Ellie was still out there, her rabbit in her arms, her life still hers. That was all I had left, a fragile hope that burned brighter than the pain. I need you to see this, the fight I gave for her. If this story breaks you, please like, comment. Tell me what you'd risk for love. Subscribe to stand with me, to carry the weight of this loss. Let's hold on to hope together. I woke to pain, a beast gnawing my side in a hospital bed that smelled of bleach and despair. Sam's voice cut through the fog, low and shaky, saying Ellie was safe, hidden where the broker couldn't reach. I'd bought her freedom with my blood, but the cost was carved into my soul. I'd lost her, not to death, but to a life I couldn't touch. My hope, fragile as a candle flame, whispered she'd grow up fierce, maybe forgiving the mother who lied. Machines beeped, their rhythm a cruel reminder I was alive. My body was a map of scars, new ones from the bullet, old ones from a life I'd tried to outrun. Sam sat by me, his eyes hollow, saying Mara was dead, her body found in the woods. But the broker was still out there, a shadow without a face, and I knew he'd never stop. I handed Sam my letter for Ellie, my hands trembling, the paper smudged with tears. It held my truth, my love, my failures, why I'd fought. "Give it to her when she's older," I said, my voice a ghost. I vanished after that. A new name, a new life. A ghost drifting through towns that didn't know me. I'd left everything, my home, my past, Ellie, to keep her safe. Every night I dreamed of her 6th birthday, her braid swinging, her rabbit clutched tight. The lie I'd told, "We'll be back soon," burned in my throat, but it had saved her. She was out there, growing, laughing, free from the shadow that had chased us. That was enough, even if it broke me. The hospital room faded in my memory, replaced by cheap motels and endless roads. I carried Ellie in my heart, her hazel eyes, her voice, a wound that never healed. I wondered if she'd hate me, if she'd understand why I'd left. My scars ached, my hope flickered, but I clung to it, stubborn as ever. She'd be strong, I told myself. Stronger than me, stronger than Jack's sins. The broker might hunt, but I'd made sure Ellie was a ghost too, untouchable. I live for her now, in the shadows, watching from afar. Every choice, every lie, every drop of blood was for her. I'm not a hero. I'm a mother, broken but unbowed, who gave everything to save her child. This is my story, raw and unhealed, a confession of love that cost me everything. I need you to feel it, to carry it with me, to know what it means to lose it all for someone else. If this story tore your heart, lifted it, or left you raw, please like, comment. Tell me what you'd sacrifice for love. Subscribe to walk this lonely road with me to hear more truths that cut deep. Let's hold this love, this loss, together.